Santiago, and you're on the very first episode of the Raw Food Muscle TV show, guys, here live on Healthy Power TV, man. Absolutely amazing. I am so pumped up. I'm so excited to be sharing you guys all these awesome recipes. I'm going to be showing you how to garden and grow your own foods, workout tips, and how to just relax and ease off the drama, the stress that goes on in our lives, because we need to incorporate all these things for our health. This is all about the complete circle of how to incorporate not just eating well, not just exercising, meditation, but gardening, all combined into one powerful technique, man.
I was a steak-eating, hot-dog-loving, cheeseburger-feaming, alcoholic-drinking, pot-smoking, crazy man. Okay, so I'm still a little crazy. That's okay, though. My name is Santiago Guido, and I am the Raw Food Muscle. So what are raw foods really all about? Raw foods are really just fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, and some seed vegetables that are not heated above 118 degrees, 116 degrees or so. And that is really the heart of what raw foods are really all about. And no, I don't eat any meat. No meat? What do you mean, no meat? That's right, folks. I said no meat. You got a problem with that? But I wasn't like this all of my life. You know, I grew up eating meat most of my life, and it wasn't until early 2000, after I was married, I had my first child, when I found myself in the emergency room thinking that I was having a heart attack, when I wasn't having a heart attack at all. It was my liver, because my liver was so polluted that I was basically getting rotten from the inside, and that's when the doctor was like, Mr. Guido, if you continue on this path, you're never going to see your daughter grow up. Damn! If that's not a wake-up call, I don't know what is. So I was like, man, I ain't going out like no punk, man. And I stopped cold turkey. As far as the drinking goes, I was like, nope, no more. And I started educating myself on what I was putting in my body. And little did I know about the meats, man. They put in like hormones, antibiotics, they put in glues in it, they put in sodium nitrate. What are we doing? They trying to blow us up to the moon or something? This is craziness what they're trying to put in our foods. So I was like, man, I had to stop this, and I slowly started to get rid of my steaks. I definitely, you know, no more of the processed foods like bolognas and all that kind of stuff. So I slowly started to get off the meats, slowly started getting off the chicken. So it was a process that took me about 9 years before I'd even got into raw foods. And it's coming on now 3 years that I've been on this raw food journey now, and it has completely changed my life. And I was completely amazed, because at first it was more like a cleansing thing when I started to find out about, you know, the whole raw foods thing. My wife was telling me, oh, maybe we should try it out, and I was like, well, I don't know about that. There's a lot of skinny minis out there looking like, you know, they're not too healthy on this raw food thing. I was like, you know, it just didn't make sense to me. And I was like, where am I going to get my protein from? But I was like, you know what, let me give it a shot. Let me give it 2 weeks and see how I feel, see how I felt in the gym. And I felt absolutely amazing. I had so much energy, so much stamina from just, you know, eating a lot of greens and vegetables and fruits. I was like, man, this is it. This is going to change my life, and I got to get serious about this. And that's when I went all the way full force into raw foods. And I'm not saying 100%, you know, I definitely don't recommend, oh, you have to be 100%. You know, all I'm saying is that introduce more raw foods into your life. But hold on, let me backtrack here, because I'm getting way ahead of myself. I grew up in DC, and back in the 70s and 80s, man, it was really hostile, a lot of violence, and it was just a nasty place for a child to grow. And on top of that, my parents were always fighting, always arguing. My father was an extremely violent person. I used to get the beat downs all the time. He was the type of person that, you know, it's because the way he grew up, that's all he knew. So I was getting whipped, I was getting punched in the face, I was getting hit by sticks. And when you grow up in that kind of environment, you fighting in the street and you're getting it at home. And a lot of the times, you know, back in those days, people would just come up to you and just punch you in the face for no reason. And so I was defending myself, and then my dad would come out and beat me down even more. So when when I grew up in that kind of environment, it was just really setting a base for a really traumatic type of childhood life. And for me, I'm not saying that's the reason why I started drinking, but it definitely didn't help matters much. And when my parents finally got divorced, by the time I was about 14 or so, my mother moved to the suburbs of DC, and that's when I went to go live with her for about a year, until she decided one day I want to leave and go back to her country. And that's when I was just forced to either go back to DC with my father or live on my own, which is exactly what I did. So at the age of 15, I was on my own, but luckily I had a friend of mine whose grandmother took in people, and I actually rented a room from her in the basement. And she was an old school Italian woman who she did her own gardening, she raised her own chickens, she even raised her own rabbits. And I kind of like learned a lot from her, because you know, she cooked everything the old-fashioned way. She even made her own pasta back in those days. And for me, that was like how I really started to wanting to learn how to make my own food, because I had no choice, because I was on my own. And so I bet if I didn't know how to cook, I better learn how to cook really quick, because I was going to come up starving if not. So that was how I started to learn how to create my own foods, from learning from her. So, and then on top of that, I kind of learned the whole gardening thing as well. So I learned a lot of good things from her. So I was lucky to be in that environment. Yes, I was still alone, I was still depressed, and that's when the party started, man, because I was drinking, I was smoking, I was skipping school, and all throughout my whole entire childhood life, I was always having problems in and out of school, getting kicked out of school, either for violence, you know, possession or theft, whatever. It was always something, and I was getting kicked. So I pretty much got kicked out of every school I've been to. But one of the things I always loved to do was pump and iron. Even when I was a little kid, I was in my backyard lifting tires and lifting cement blocks and things like that, all throughout my childhood into my teens. And you know, I was so into it that I was overlifting and not training like I should have been, letting my body rest in between days and so on. And I ended up injuring my shoulders. I got bursitis in both shoulders. And the doctors were like, you need to stop lifting weights, you know, because it was at the point where my shoulders were in so much pain I couldn't even lift my arms up. And I had no idea that I was overtraining like that. And so the doctors were like, all right, enough, you need to stop lifting for at least a year. And I was like, wow, and I had no idea. And so I went to this depression and started drinking more, started eating a lot, and gained 50 pounds. And that was like one of the lowest points of my life, because you know, one, I couldn't lift weights, and I was eating all this, you know, crappy food. I was drinking to kind of suppress my emotions. And that's when I was introduced to acupuncture and meditation. And that was the real turning point in my life, because I had no idea that our bodies have the ability to heal itself from the inside. And so when I started learning how acupuncture works and learning about the meridians in our bodies and how it opens up the channels to heal our body, and you can actually do this through meditation. And so when I started to learn to meditate and deep breathe, and that's when all the emotions first started to come up, and there was like a cleansing process for me, you know, because you know, all those years of suppressing that emotion, suppressing those feelings, from my father, you know, teaching me years and years and years never to cry, never to show emotion, so on and so forth. You know, it was just a way, when I started to learn to release this emotion, it was so cleansing and so powerful and so healing that, you know, for me it was like, oh my God, I have to, you know, definitely make this a part of my life going forward. I think it's important that we learn to deal with our emotions, deal with our childhood life, whatever we've gone through. We all have our stories, right? I mean, and I think all of these things happen for a reason, whether they're good or bad. I don't regret any of it. I mean, if it wasn't for all those things that I've gone through in my life, I wouldn't be who I am today. And it's only the experience of going through that is what really teaches me things. And I can't read that in a book and learn it and it's like, oh wow, I know how that feels like. No, you have to live it and you have to experience it. And so for me, that was once I clicked in my head, then I knew that, wow, man, you know, I was brought to this planet for a reason. All these things I've gone through in my life happened for a reason, and it's made me who I am today. So for me, living a healthy life is not only about eating the right foods and exercise, but it's also about growing your own foods. Because if we can grow our own foods in our own yards, even if it's just a little bit, you can control how your food is grown. You don't have to worry about the pesticides and fertilizers that are being put into the food that are actually harming our bodies and spreading cancer all over the world. You can actually grow much better tasting food. You're not going to find food in the grocery store that's going to taste the same as your backyard. There's no comparison to food growing in your own yard. Trust me on this one, because I've done it for 4 or 5 years now, and it just does not even compare. So I think it's important to grow your own foods, but also take time to just, relax your body, release the stress that we go through on a daily basis, whether that be through, the kids that drive us crazy, because I know my kids drive me crazy, the work that we go through all day long. We have to take that time to have a time out for ourselves, to relax our bodies, to go within, to just let our bodies heal naturally from within. When you don't take that time to release that stress, it just builds up and builds up and builds up, and before you know, you're walking around so stiff, and you have all these blockages in your body. So it's important to just relax your body, go within, do some deep breathing, connecting with nature, even if it's just going for a walk in the park barefoot. Absolutely healing for the body, and it's just one great way to connect with Mother Nature. You'd be surprised how Mother Nature is connected with us. So I'm going to show you guys how to increase your energy from eating healthy, healing foods, increase your energy from growing your own foods, increase your energy from exercise tips, and increasing your energy from just relaxing and letting go of the stress. Because I know, because I got 4 kids now, man, and I'm going crazy up in this house. I'm being attacked by 4 crazy kids! Baby's kids!